An American veteran and the promise of 50 letters, a miracle reunion after half a century. At Tan Son Nhat International Airport, an elderly American gentleman with snow-white hair stood with trembling hands clutching a bouquet of deep red roses. His eyes searched anxiously for a woman in a traditional green silk dress. When their eyes finally met after 50 long years, every barrier of time and geography seemed to vanish. They rushed into each other's arms, sobbing with relief, a heartbreakingly beautiful embrace that reconnected a love story born in Vietnam back in 1969. Amidst the bustling airport crowds, the moment played out like a slow-motion film, a testament to a love that transcends time and the sheer magic of destiny. To understand those tears of joy at the airport that day, we must travel back to the 1960s. In December 1968, 2 years after enlisting, a young American soldier named Ken Reesing was deployed to the Vietnam War. He was stationed at the U.S. Army's Data Service Center at the Long Binh Post in Bien Hoa Dong Nai Province. The young soldier, just in his early 20s, was a long way from home and unfamiliar with the war-torn landscape. In the evenings, he often stopped by the EM Club, a place where servicemen sought a bit of relaxation after stressful days. One fateful night, his gaze landed on a young Vietnamese woman working there. Her name was Thuy Lan, born Vu Thi Vinh, a 17-year-old girl with a graceful smile and long, silky black hair that commanded attention. From then on, Ken didn't visit the club for the drinks or the music. He went just to catch a glimpse of Lan from afar. Eventually, he worked up the courage to strike up a conversation. His voice was shaky and his words were clumsy due to the language barrier. But in that moment, the invisible wall between two strangers crumbled. They talked, they laughed, and they realized that despite their vast cultural differences, their hearts beat as one. Their love blossomed with a gentle, sincere purity. They dated discreetly on weekends after Lan attended church, exchanging warm glances and tender gestures. They never even held hands, fearing her mother's warning that holding hands leads to pregnancy. Their love grew amidst the backdrop of war. However, in September 1969, Ken received orders to return to the States early to continue his college education. He recalled, "I was leaving Vietnam in September, 3 months ahead of schedule. Because of Lan, the closer September got, the more I wished I didn't have to go." Knowing their time together was running out, Ken asked her one last time, "Lan, do you want to come with me?" She remained silent, her eyes filled with sorrow. She knew that leaving would change her entire life. Ultimately, she chose to stay. As the eldest of 7 children, she could not abandon her responsibilities to chase her own happiness. Ken didn't blame her. He simply understood and shared her pain. Before they parted ways in Bien Hoa, he gave Lan 50 white envelopes numbered 1 through 50. He told her that when she mailed him the very last letter, he would be on his way back to find her. Ken remembered, "I made a promise. That day was very hard for me. I remember hugging her as tight as I possibly could. I kissed her and then I tried to hold her even tighter." Lan kept her promise. She wrote to him almost every day, her words saturated with love and a deep, aching longing. In less than a year, the 50 envelopes were gone, but she kept writing. Then disaster struck. As U.S. forces withdrew and the Long Binh Post closed, they lost contact entirely. Fearing for the family's future in the post-war era, Lan's mother burned all the letters and mementos related to the American soldier. Everything seemed destined to fade into oblivion. Half a century lost and the cruelty of time. Ken left Vietnam carrying his memories of Lan and a heavy heart returning to the other side of the ocean. Though he eventually married, he later divorced and had no children. He lived a quiet life in Ohio with only his cat for company. As for Lan, in 1984, she lived with a man and gave birth to a daughter. However, they separated just 2 years later. From then on, she raised her daughter alone, earning a living by selling plain rice porridge, a job she still holds today. The promise from years ago remained like a deep scar on the veteran's heart and a somber note in the woman's life. Despite the passing decades, the regret of his unfulfilled promise never left him. He wasn't even sure if she had survived the fierce bombings that once ravaged the Bien Hoa battlefield. After April 30, 1975, diplomatic ties between Vietnam and the U.S. were severed for a long time. With no way to contact her and no friends who knew her whereabouts, the hope in Ken's heart began to flicker out. But when the two nations normalized relations, he began a quiet search. The journey lasted years, conducted in secret. He even hired private investigators, but he had so little to go on, just a few vague clues that weren't enough to track her down, especially since he had no idea what her life had become. During sleepless nights, Ken would sit under a dim light, holding an old, faded photograph of Lan, whispering to himself, "Are you still alive? Are you angry with me for not keeping my promise?" Meanwhile, at a corner of the Bien Hoa market, locals became familiar with the sight of a thin woman, her eyes weary from years of hard work, sitting beside a steaming pot of rice porridge every morning. For 50 long years, while Ken treasured Lan's photo like a relic, Lan quietly kept her own old mementos tucked away in a private drawer, shards of memory that could not be erased. They lived two separate lives, both carrying loneliness and loss, but neither truly forgot the other. The miracle that brought them back together. In June 2019, with the help of a friend on Facebook and a man named Robert and Amerasian living in Ho Chi Minh City, Ken Reesing's story was shared on social media for the first time. He posted an old black and white photo of a young girl with deep, soulful eyes, accompanied by simple yet stirring words. "Hello, I am Ken Reesing, a U.S. veteran who was stationed at Long Bin Post in 1969. There I met and loved a girl named Thuy Lan. At the time she worked at the EM Club, she is likely around 70 years old now. I have never stopped thinking about her. I promised her I would return, but for many reasons I did not. I want to find that girl who has always remained in my heart, just to know if she is alive and happy. I will not interfere with her life." In less than 24 hours, the post exploded, garnering tens of thousands of shares. The online community launched a massive search across the Bien Hoa area. Then a miracle happened. Within just a few days, netizens found Thuy Lan. On June 9, 2019, after exactly half a century apart, they reconnected via Facebook. Daily video calls began, and the two former wartime lovers started revisiting their old memories together. Initially, Lan had suppressed many of her memories due to the passage of time and the struggles of daily life. She only vaguely recalled the name Ken. He sent her the old photos to confirm. When the images appeared and the memories flooded back, they both broke down in tears. From then on, they spoke every day, chatting naturally, despite the fact that she only remembered a little English from her youth. The reunion after 50 years. In September 2019, Ken boarded a flight to Vietnam. The moment they reunited at Tan Son Nhat Airport melted the hearts of everyone watching. Lan, wearing a green dress, his favorite color, waited exactly at column 12, just as they had once planned. As soon as they saw each other, they couldn't contain their emotions and rushed into a deep embrace in the middle of the crowd. She cried, and he cried too. Every so often, Ken would gently reach out to wipe the tears from her face, whispering apologies for being so late to keep his promise, all under the moved gazes of fellow passengers. To land that moment felt like a dream. I felt like I was dreaming that someone could love and remember me for 50 years. During his short 14-day stay in Vietnam, Ken spent every moment with her trying to make up for the half-century they had lost. He stayed at her home in Bien Hoa, helped her sell porridge in the morning, revisited the old base, walked along the beach, and even tried riding on the back of a motorbike. Despite their age, Ken expressed a deep desire to marry her to fulfill the unfinished promise from 50 years ago. Her children and grandchildren offered their full support, but Lan said she needed more time to think. While the memories were intact, they still had much to learn about each other after so many years apart. Their affection remains as beautiful and strong as it was in the beginning. Ken once said, "Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done." Their story has touched the hearts of millions, proving that true love can overcome the barriers of time and war. Destiny is indeed a mysterious thing. The number 50 acted as a quiet prophecy for their relationship. When the 50th letter was sent, they lost each other in the flow of life. Yet fate never closed the book half a century later. After 50 years apart, they found each other again, bringing their past to a perfect close.